My name's Tom Hargrove, and I've always been the guy who keeps the family fed. It's my thing, you know? While everyone else is glued to their screens, I'm in the kitchen, chopping onions, simmering sauces, making sure every plate's a work of art. I don't do it because they ask me to. I do it because I love it. Or at least, I thought I did. Last Saturday night, everything changed. It was my brother-in-law Derek's 40th birthday, and I'd spent 4 days prepping a feast that could have fed a small army. Homemade ravioli, a rack of lamb that cost more than my car payment, and a triple-layer caramel cake that took me 6 hours to perfect. 17 people crowded around our dining table, tearing into the food like they hadn't eaten in weeks. I was carrying out the final platter, garlic roasted potatoes, when Derek clapped me on the shoulder so hard I nearly dropped it. He grinned at the table and said, "Every family needs a clown. Thanks, Tom, for making us all look like champs." The room erupted in laughter, not the polite kind, but the kind where people snort and slap their knees. My 15-year-old son, Ethan, choked on his soda and piped up, "Dad's like a dish rag, kinda soggy and only good for cleaning up." More laughs, sharper this time. Then my wife, Laura, of 16 years, leaned back with this sly grin and said, "Nah, he's more like a slow cooker. Set it, forget it, and it'll churn out something decent eventually." The table lost it. My sister-in-law, Maureen, was wiping her eyes. My nephew was banging his fork on the table. And there I was, holding the potatoes, smiling like an idiot, like I was in on the joke. I've been the family's punching bag for so long, I'd stopped noticing it. You get used to the jabs, tell yourself it's just how families are, that it's all in good fun. But that night, something snapped. Maybe it was Ethan joining in, or Laura's smirk, like she didn't care how it landed. Or maybe, after 16 years, I'd finally had enough. I served the rest of the meal, nodded through their half-hearted compliments between more digs about me being the family maid. I cleared the plates while they lounged in the living room, laughing over some viral video. That night, I couldn't sleep. I scrolled through my phone, years of photos, every holiday, birthday, anniversary where I'd poured my heart into the food, the house, the family. In every picture, I'm smiling, hopeful, waiting for someone to notice I was more than the guy with the spatula. At 4 in the morning, I made a choice. I was done being the clown. Sunday morning, I woke up before the sun, like always. Made coffee, strong enough to wake a coma patient, and sat at the kitchen table, waiting for Laura to shuffle in, eyes glued to her phone. When she did, I said I was heading to the hardware store for some tools. She barely nodded, already scrolling through her social media feed. I didn't go to the hardware store. Instead, I drove to the bank, withdrew exactly half our savings and checking fair and square, not a dime extra. I wasn't trying to be a jerk, just drawing a line in the sand. Then I headed to my buddy Mike's place across town. Mike's the only one who's ever called out Laura's family for treating me like their personal chef and punching back. Last Thanksgiving, he told Derek to lay off when he made a crack about me being whipped. Everyone laughed it off, said Mike was too serious, but I saw the look he gave me, like he was begging me to stand up for myself. I didn't have the guts then. I do now. I told Mike everything over a couple of beers in his garage. He didn't hesitate, offered me his spare room until I got my feet under me. I thanked him but said I needed my own space. By noon, I'd found a month-to-month lease on a small studio apartment, nothing fancy, just a bed, a couch, and a kitchen I could actually cook in. Signed the papers online, paid the deposit and first month's rent from my new account. Back at home, I left a note on the counter, "Find a new clown. I'm done." Then I silenced my phone and drove away. By nightfall, I had 52 missed calls, 20 from Laura, 10 from Ethan, the rest from her relatives. I only texted Ethan back, "Love you, kid. Need some time. We'll talk soon." Monday, I called my old friend Greg, who's been through a divorce that made World War II look like a picnic. We met at a diner, and he laid out the basics. Keep records of everything. Don't touch joint accounts for stupid stuff. Don't trash talk Laura to Ethan. Smart advice. I took the week off work, called it a personal emergency, which wasn't exactly a lie. Spent the day setting up my new life, new bank account, rerouted my bills, canceled our shared streaming services. "Sorry, Laura, you'll have to get your own account for those reality shows you binge." Tuesday, Laura's dad, Carl, started blowing up my phone. I ignored the first 5 calls, listened to the 6th voicemail. "Tom, this is nonsense. Laura's a mess. Ethan's confused. You can't just walk out on your family. Call me." Walk out? After 16 years of cooking, cleaning, and eating their insults with a smile? That's a good one. Instead of calling, I started pulling together proof, text messages where Laura mocked my job, photos from family events where I'm in the background, setting up or cleaning while they pose for selfies. Even jotted down memories of times I tried talking to Laura about how I felt, only for her to laugh it off. By Wednesday, I'd sent it all in an email to Carl, Derek, and a few others who were at that dinner. Subject, "Why I'm gone, 16 years of being your joke." Nobody responded for hours. Then my phone lit up again. "Derek, man, it was just a laugh. Chill out." Carl, "We need to meet and fix this." Laura, "How could you humiliate me like this?" Not one sorry in the bunch. By Thursday, Laura must have realized I wasn't crawling back with my tail tucked. Her text shifted from angry to desperate. "Tom, I miss you. The house is falling apart without you. Ethan tried to make spaghetti last night, and we ended up ordering pizza. Part of me felt a twisted kind of pride knowing they couldn't manage without their personal chef and janitor. But mostly, I was just tired. Tired of being needed only when the dishes piled up or the fridge was empty. I didn't respond. Instead, I met Greg again at the same diner, this time to talk about next steps. He brought a rough draft of separation papers, nothing set in stone, just a starting point to show I meant business. They weren't cruel, but they laid out the truth. I've been the one keeping our household running, not just with money, but with the invisible stuff, planning Ethan's school stuff, fixing the leaky faucet, making sure everyone's birthdays felt special. Greg advised me to hold off sending them, let Laura stew a bit longer. Give her a taste of life without you, he said. I nodded, sipping coffee that tasted like burnt regret. Friday morning, I got a voicemail from Laura, her voice shaky. Tom, the credit card got declined at the grocery store. I didn't know you paid that bill. Please call me. Welcome to the real world, honey. For years, I'd handled every bill, every budget, while she spent like money grew in the backyard. That night, I cooked for myself in my tiny apartment, nothing fancy, just a grilled cheese and tomato soup. Felt like a small victory, eating something I made for me, not a crowd expecting a performance. Saturday, a week after Derek's birthday disaster, I was starting to feel lighter, like I'd shed a weight I didn't know I was carrying. My sister, Ginny, came over to check on me. She's always been the one person who saw through Laura's family's nonsense. Last Easter, she told Carl he was out of line for joking I was better at folding laundry than folding under pressure. They brushed her off, but her words stuck with me. Over beers, I told her everything. She didn't say much, just listened, then hugged me and said, to Tom, who's finally seeing he's worth more than their cheap shots. I nearly choked up. Sunday morning, my doorbell buzzed. There stood Laura and her dad, Carl, both looking like they'd been through a blender. Laura's eyes were red, her hair a mess. Carl had this stern look, like he was about to lecture me into submission. I let them in, not because I wanted to, but because I wasn't ready to burn every bridge just yet. My studio's bare bones, a second-hand couch, a folding table, a fridge with half a gallon of milk and some ketchup packets. Carl scanned the place like it was a crime scene. Laura clutched a soggy tissue, avoiding my eyes. Carl started, all serious. Tom, we've been worried sick. You can't just vanish on your family. I didn't say anything, just leaned against the counter, waiting. Silence is a trick I learned from years of being the quiet guy in a loud family. Laura broke first, spilling a rehearsed speech about how their jokes were just family banter, how she never meant to hurt me, how I was overreacting. I let her finish, then asked, if Derek said that stuff about you, would you be laughing? She froze, like I'd tossed her a math problem with no answer. Carl jumped in, talking, saying I'd always been too sensitive, that I was misunderstanding their affection. Classic Carl, rewriting history to make himself the good guy. I pulled out my phone and played a recording I'd made that night, not the whole dinner, just the part where they tore into me. Derek's clown comment, Ethan's dish rag jab, Laura's slow cooker zinger, and all that laughter, sharp as knives. Hearing it again, in their own voices, hit like a punch. Laura's face crumpled, like she was seeing it for the first time. Carl stared at the floor, like he wished it'd swallow him whole. When I played that recording for Laura and Carl, the air in my tiny apartment got heavy, like someone had sucked out all the oxygen. Laura's eyes welled up, and for once, it didn't feel like a show. Carl just sat there, hands folded, looking like a kid caught stealing cookies. When the clip ended, I didn't say anything, just let the silence do the work. Laura finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know it sounded like that, Tom. I swear, I didn't mean it to hurt you. I wanted to believe her, but 16 years of swallowing their jokes made it hard. I told them I'd been keeping a record, not just that night, but years of it. Screenshots of texts where Laura called my job cute compared to Derek's big shot career. Old emails from Carl, thanking me for cooking but always with a dig, like, great meal, Tom, guess you're good for something. Even birthday cards with backhanded compliments, like, to the guy who keeps the kitchen warm and the family fed. I showed them a few on my phone. Laura's face went pale, like she was seeing a ghost of herself she didn't recognize. Carl tried to pivot, saying families tease, that it's normal. I cut him off. Normal doesn't make it right. Then Laura dropped a bombshell. She said Derek had been at their house all week, spinning a story that I was having a midlife meltdown, and would come crawling back once I got it out of my system. He'd even told Ethan to give me the cold shoulder, saying I needed to feel the consequences of abandoning them. But that wasn't the half of it. Derek was in deep trouble. His business was tanking. Bad deals, shady loans, the works. Laura only knew because he'd come to her, begging for cash to keep his house. Part of me felt sorry for him, but a bigger part was mad. This was the guy who called me a clown, and now he was the one juggling disasters. I asked Laura what she wanted from me. Was she here to say sorry, or just to get me back in the kitchen, making life easy again? She started crying, not the dramatic sobs I'd seen when she wanted her way, but something quieter, realer. She said she'd never had to think about how her words hit me because I never pushed back. That email I sent, with all the proof of their disrespect, had shaken her. It was like she'd been sleepwalking through our marriage and finally woke up. Carl stayed quiet, then said something that caught me off guard. I saw my wife treat me the same way for years, Tom. I thought that's just how it goes. I should have spoken up for you. It was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever heard from him. I didn't hug them or say everything was fine. I told them I needed time, that I wasn't moving back, and if we were going to fix anything, it'd take more than words. They left, looking like they'd been through a storm. Monday rolled around, and I was at work, heating up a pathetic microwave burrito, when Derek showed up in the break room. No idea how he got past the front desk, but there he was, in a wrinkled shirt, no tie, looking like he hadn't slept in days. He launched into a speech about family loyalty, how real men don't bail when things get tough. I let him ramble, then asked, "How's the business, Derek? Still making those big deals?" His face went white, like I'd punched him in the gut. He stammered something about private matters and left, but not before I heard him muttering about rumors. I didn't start any rumors, but I didn't need to. People talk when money's on the line. Tuesday, Ethan sent me a text that wasn't just attitude. "Can we grab burgers this weekend? Just want to talk." It was small, but it felt like a crack in the wall between us. I said yes, trying not to get my hopes up. Wednesday, Laura called again, left a voicemail about another decline card. She sounded panicked, like she was just figuring out how much I've been holding together. I didn't call back, but I started thinking about what comes next, not just for me, but for all of us. Thursday brought a new kind of quiet to my little apartment. The chaos of the past week, Laura's tears, Carl's lectures, Derek's meltdown, had settled into a strange calm, like the moment before a storm either breaks or passes. I was still chewing on what Laura and Carl said, especially Carl's admission about his own marriage. It made me wonder how deep this pattern ran, how many years of normal family jabs had built the mess I was standing in. I met Greg again, this time at a park near my work, where we could talk without the diner's greasy air. He'd polished the separation papers, making them clearer but still fair. They spelled out an even split of assets, but also listed the unpaid work I'd done, cooking, fixing things, keeping Ethan's life on track. "It's not about punishing her," Greg said. "It's about showing what you brought to the table." I tucked the papers away, not ready to send them but feeling stronger knowing they existed. Friday, I got a call from Laura's sister, Maureen, who'd been at Derek's birthday dinner. She'd always been the loudest laugher, but her voice was soft now. She said Derek's business was crumbling, clients bailing, debts piling up. His wife, Karen, had kicked him out after finding sketchy bank statements. Maureen asked if I'd talk to Karen, maybe calm her down. I almost laughed. Me, the family clown, playing peacemaker? I told her I'd think about it, but only if Derek owned up to his part in our family's mess. That night, I cooked for Ginny at my place, simple tacos, nothing like the feast I used to slave over. She raised her beer and said, to my brother, who's done taking crap. It felt good, like I was finally someone worth toasting. Saturday, I met Ethan for burgers at his favorite spot. He looked smaller, less like the cocky teen who'd called me a dish rag and more like a kid scared of losing his dad. We didn't dive into the heavy stuff right away, just talked about school, his soccer team, the new video game he was obsessed with. Then he got quiet and said, "I'm sorry I laughed at you, Dad. I thought it was just what we did." His voice cracked, and I had to look away to keep it together. I told him he wasn't a bad kid, just caught up in a bad habit. "You're learning," I said, "and that's what matters." He nodded, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I hadn't lost him. Sunday, Laura texted, asking to meet. Not at my place, not at hers, but at a coffee shop downtown, neutral ground. I agreed, figuring it was time to hear her out. When I got there, she was already sitting, no makeup, no fancy latte, just a plain tea and a nervous look I'd never seen on her. She didn't waste time. "Tom, I'm starting therapy. Not for us, not yet, but for me. I need to figure out why I treated you like that." It wasn't what I expected. No begging, no promises, just her owning her mess. I didn't know what to say, so I just listened, letting her words sink in. Thanksgiving snuck up like a thief, and I'd completely forgotten about it until Carl called Wednesday night. Normally, I'd be knee-deep in turkey brine and pie crusts by now, while Laura and her family watched parades and griped about the food taking too long. Carl's voice was tentative, like he was afraid I'd hang up. "Tom, what are we doing for Thanksgiving? I mean, with you not around." I told him I hadn't planned anything, that I figured they'd handle it without me. There was a long pause, then he said, "What if we cooked for you this time?" I chuckled, picturing Carl, Laura, and Ethan trying to tackle a holiday meal. It sounded like a recipe for disaster, but also kind of sweet. I agreed, but on my terms. We'd do it at my apartment, not the house. Neutral territory still felt safer. Thursday morning, they showed up with grocery bags stuffed with random ingredients. Canned yams, a turkey that looked like it had been through a war, and a box of instant stuffing mix. Laura had a binder of recipes she'd printed from the internet, complete with highlighter marks. Ethan had an app on his phone that gave cooking tips in a robotic voice. I sat at my wobbly kitchen table, sipping coffee, watching them fumble through my bare-bones kitchen. Carl kept asking where I kept the whisk, forgetting I'd only been here a few weeks. Laura burned the dinner rolls, setting off the smoke alarm. Ethan chopped vegetables with surprising skill, though he nearly took off a finger. I only chimed in when they asked, which was a lot. By late afternoon, they'd cobbled together a meal that was edible. The turkey was half-cooked, the stuffing was gluey, and the yams were so sweet they could have doubled as dessert. But they tried, really tried. We sat down to eat, and Carl raised his glass. Tom, I'm sorry for standing by while they treated you like a servant. I should have said something years ago. Laura went next, her voice shaky. I'm sorry for making you feel small, for teaching Ethan it was okay to disrespect you. I'm trying to change. Ethan looked at his plate, then at me. Dad, I'm sorry for calling you a dish rag. You're not a joke. You're my dad, and I messed up. I swallowed hard, not trusting my voice. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. It was Derek, alone, holding a cheap bottle of wine. He looked rough, like he hadn't shaved in days. He didn't say much, just asked to join us. I let him in, and we ate that messy meal together. The talk was awkward but real, no jabs, no laughter at my expense. Derek even asked about my cooking tricks, not to mock me, but because he was curious. It was small, but it felt like a shift, like maybe we were starting to see each other as people, not roles. The weeks after Thanksgiving felt like stepping into a new world, one where I wasn't the family's doormat anymore. Laura kept going to therapy, and she'd text me updates. Not pushy, just letting me know she was working on herself. Ethan started coming over twice a week, sometimes to do homework, sometimes just to hang out. One night, he brought over a pizza and said, I told my friends you're the coolest dad. They don't believe me, but it's true. I laughed, but it stuck with me. Derek's life was still a mess. His business was barely hanging on, and Karen was talking divorce. But he wasn't taking it out on me anymore. He even sent a text apologizing for the birthday dinner. No excuses, just a straight up, I was wrong. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. Christmas rolled around, and I wasn't sure what to expect. Laura invited me to Carl's house for dinner, said they'd handle the cooking but wanted my advice. I showed up, half expecting another disaster, but they'd actually pulled it off. The ham was a little salty, the potatoes were lumpy, but it was theirs, not mine. Carl toasted to Tom, who showed us what we were missing. No one laughed, no one made a dig. They just looked at me, and for the first time, I felt seen. Laura lingered after dinner, asked if I'd think about moving back after the new year. I told her I wasn't ready, that I liked my little apartment, my quiet life. But I agreed to try counseling together, see where it led. We've had 3 sessions so far. Tough, messy, but honest. I'm not the guy I was, the one who smiled through the insults. I'm Tom, the guy who cooks because he loves it, not because he's expected to. The guy who's teaching his son what respect looks like. The guy who's learning to demand it for himself. Laura's changing too, slowly, and Ethan's growing into someone I'm proud of. Derek's still figuring it out, but he's not my problem. I don't know if I'll move back home or keep my independence. What I do know is I'm not the family clown anymore, and that's worth more than any fancy meal I ever made. It's been 6 months since that Christmas dinner, and life settled into a rhythm I never thought I'd find. Laura and I are still in counseling, peeling back years of bad habits. It's not a fairy tale. We argue, we stumble, but it's real. I'm still in my apartment, cooking for myself, sometimes for Ethan or Jenny. I started a small catering side gig, just a few clients, but it's mine, built on my terms. Ethan's applying to colleges, and he asked me to help with his essays. Said he wants to write about learning respect from his dad. That hit me hard. Derek's rebuilding, living in a small condo, working a regular job. He calls sometimes, not to joke, but to talk, like we're equals. Carl and Maureen check in, careful not to push, and I can tell they're trying. Laura's house is on the market. She can't afford it alone, and I'm okay with that. We're talking about a smaller place, maybe together, maybe not. I'm not rushing. For the first time, I'm choosing my path, not following someone else's. I used to think family was about taking the hits and keeping the peace. Now I know it's about standing tall, even when it's messy. I'm Tom Hardgrove, and I'm no one's punchline. That's the best dish I've ever served.